98 FM. Dublin Talks. Call 6797 981.
And good morning from Adrian Kennedy. How are you this morning? I hope everything is good with you in an ever-changing world that we're living in. In a couple of minutes, I want to talk, this is a conversation we had on Monday, but we need to come back to it again because new guidelines were announced yesterday by the government as to the sorts of companies that need to close down, the sort of companies that can continue to remain open. But one of the things that continues to operate is the construction sector. And a lot of people have been in contact with us saying that they can't understand how the construction sector is being allowed to continue to operate. And if you are involved in construction, I would very much like to hear from you on 6797 981. 6797 981. You can also text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98 if you want to get involved in the conversation. So let us find out firstly about the new measures that were put in place yesterday by the government. And I'm joined by Sean Defoe, a 98 FM reporter who was at the press conference yesterday. Sean, it's fair to say that these were fairly serious measures, but not to the stage of anything like a lockdown.
No, and the Taoiseach was quite keen to say that this isn't a lockdown, that people will still be able to go to work if they absolutely need to. You're still allowed to go outside to go for your walk, but they are much further restrictions than we've ever seen before in the States. So I suppose to give a quick summary of them, outdoor gatherings of more than 4 people are banned unless you live under the same roof. So if you're in a family with 3 kids and 2 parents, then you can, of course, still go about your walk because you're living together, you're not social distancing. But any other sort of a gathering outdoors of more than more than 4 people is not going to be allowed, and there's going to be extra guards and park rangers in parks and other public places like beaches trying to enforce that social distancing. And then there's thousands of people across Dublin who are not at work today who were at work yesterday.
Okay, so give me an idea of the sorts of companies that have now closed.
So there was a lot of them. It's kind of this non-essential area is what the government say, and what they mean by that is places that aren't 100% essential to the ongoing effort, a lot of which had already closed. So you're talking in a lot of places about gyms, hairdressers, betting shops, markets, casinos, these kind of places that were all told to close. And there's a list that has been released by the government of essential businesses, the ones that should stay open in terms of retail, and they include the likes of food shops that are going to be obviously very important in the next while. Selling food and drinks off licenses are included in that for those who like a tipple. Pharmacies and chemists as well were included, opticians, fuel stations and heating fuel providers. People can heat their home and fuel the car if they absolutely need to. Laundries and dry cleaners, banks, post offices, credit unions and hardware stores as well. So there is a very set list now who should be open and who shouldn't be open.
Okay, so for example, will I be able to go to Harvey Norman at the weekend?
You should be able to. You should be able to as a hardware store. Harvey Norman, I'm getting...
It's an electrical store.
No, Harvey Norman is an electrical store. It's probably going to be closed. Now, I haven't seen individual confirmation of those companies, so if you're thinking of going somewhere else or somewhere like that, you should look them up. Most of those stores are going to be closed.
Okay, now one item that we've been contacted by an awful lot of people about is the construction sector and the fact that construction, despite the issues that the construction sector has in terms of social distancing, is remaining open for business. Was there anything said about that sector?
Yeah, there was. So the construction sector and factories were not included in these guidelines yesterday, and they were being told they could stay open, but under conditions. So it's now, the onus is on the employer to work with the government, both the National Standards Authority and the Health and Safety Authority, to ensure that if they're going to stay open, social distancing has to happen. There has to be appropriate measures in place, be that hand sanitizer, access to hot water to wash your hands. That all has to be in place, and it's going to be the onus on the employer. There are going to be inspections that are done. by the HSA. We don't know the scale of them at the moment. I'm trying to get more detail on, well, are they all going to happen this week? Our place is going to be told to shut down. We don't 100% know how that's going to work. And there is a lot of anxiety among people this morning because particularly, say, if you took an electrician who was working on a construction site, almost always working indoors in a bit more of a cramped space, there are certain things you can't do on a construction site on your own, that you need someone else to be there for other health and safety rules. And there's people who travel to this, will travel 2 or 3 or 4 of them in a van, which obviously doesn't allow for social distancing, and people are afraid to bring that home to their families. So there's a lot of questions about it. Pascal Donoghue was asked about it, and he said that in some cases these construction workers are going to be building the services and the structures that we actually need to deal with the crisis, be that testing centres that are going to be needed over the next while or whatever. And also that he was very conscious of the economic shock of trying not to shut everything down, because that will make it much harder for the economy in 2, 3, 4 months, whenever this is over, to actually get back up and running.
Okay, so it was specifically mentioned it is now up to the employer, so the builder, to ensure that his staff or her staff are able to maintain proper social distancing whilst they're at work.
Yes, and if they can't do that, then the sites should close. Now, what they should do is guidelines are going to be set out by the National Standards Authority and the HSA, so employers should get in contact with both of them, see what they have to comply to, and work to make sure that can be done. Of course, if workers are concerned, they can go to the Workplace Relations Commission, can put in a measure there if they think their employer is not paying attention to this or not actually doing something, and then they potentially get involved. But we're still a little bit away from that, and the hope from the government point of view is that everyone will just take this seriously, employers and employees, and work to make sure that if you want to stay open, you have a safe workplace, and if you can't do that, you don't stay open.
Okay, so the onus has really been put on us to, or builders particularly, because this is a conversation we're going to be having in a second, to ensure that their site or their workplace fits in with the guidelines, because if they don't and if they're not, then ultimately we're going to see sites being closed, which nobody wants to see happening, if they can actually work safely.
Exactly, and even for the safety of your employees. I mean, if one person gets it on a construction site, they can pass it on to more. We've seen how infectious this can be, and you could end up with the site having to close because there's a mass infection. So there is a big public health onus on the employers to work with the government, work with the different agencies here to make sure that if they want to stay open and keep going, which many of them do, then it has to be a safe environment.
Okay, another conversation we're going to be having later on in the programme relates to gatherings in public places, and I understand that has been now restricted to 4 people. What powers do the Gardaí have if, for example, and this is a photograph that was widely circulated yesterday, a gang of teenagers is gathering together? What powers do the Gardaí have?
So the Gardaí have quite a few powers under the new legislation that was brought in last week, but also under existing legislation to disperse people. They can technically detain people who they suspect of having the coronavirus or spreading the coronavirus. What is more likely, though, is that we are going to see a system where the government wants people to self-enforce. They don't want people or Gardaí having to go into parks and arresting people because they are flagrantly flouting the laws that are going on. And we're going to see increased patrols in parks, in near beaches, other public areas. If people are gathering and if people are too close together, the first step would be the guard coming over and say, lads, can you social distance, please, for everyone's sake, and to try and do it with the cooperation of everybody. They don't want to have to step up into more arrests, and obviously that gets very contentious if you do, in terms of the Gardaí taking a harsher line on it. So for now, people are just being asked, have a bit of cop on. Don't gather in groups of more than 4. Even when you do gather in those small groups, maintain your social distancing of about 2 metres between you. You're still allowed to go out. You're still allowed to go for walks. And I think what we saw last weekend, when we saw loads of people out at the beaches, loads of people out the mountains or wherever, that's led to these further restrictions. If it continues to happen, that's inevitably going to lead to further restrictions again, because that's the only way that they can do it. So if you want to be able to still get out for a while and get out and have a bit of fresh air, get out of the house for an hour or 2 for your walk or whatever, then please stick to the guidelines, because otherwise the government is going to have to consider further measures.
Is there just one final question, Sean? You mentioned gatherings of the weekend in places like Howth and Glendalough and everything else. Are any restrictions being put in place for areas like that, like those specific places? Howth, I'm thinking of, to stop a large gang going out to Howth again this weekend.
There's a lot of those have decided to self-police, or there's been discussions going on with the local authorities and with the likes of the Parks and Public Wildlife Service about how they can limit it. As I said, there's going to be an increased Garda presence in a lot of those places to try and stop it from happening in the first place. And the hope is that will be enough to put people off. And as I said before, if it isn't, that's when we're going to have to look at further restrictions and perhaps barring people from going to certain places. But the hope is it won't get to that point. All
right. Very informative. Thanks very much indeed. 98 FM reporter Sean Defoe on the new rules in place. And as the Taoiseach said himself, this is not a lockdown, but it's not far from it, essentially. And I want to come back to something we did speak about on Monday, which is the construction sector. And I think a lot of people were kind of expecting building sites to be shut down, but that hasn't happened. I got a message a moment ago and it says, I am on site now. The 2 metre rule is not being adhered to. It's impossible in a lot of situations. You have different tradesmen working in the same areas as each other. You've been told to stay and work and get on with it, but you can only try to adhere to it with your own workmates. Other tradesmen are in and out of your area and nothing you can do. They've decided that our lives are less important than others. It is quite sickening, says that message. And I would like to hear from you on 6797981. You can text, you can WhatsApp, you can send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. One man who got in contact with us earlier wanting us to highlight this is a guy called Dara. And Dara is currently a director of a scaffolding company, which he set up in September of last year. Dara, welcome to 98 FM. Let me ask you, what is the current state of play with you?
Well, at the minute, I'm currently out on site now myself, but I have lads still working all over the place. Bray, out there, Clonmel, out there. I've lads up in Kingswood, Tala, City West, everywhere. And at the minute, basically, some of them are really relaxed about what's going on, and some are actually fearing, really. They've the fear of what's going on, and some are not turning up to work, some are refusing to go to work, some are leaving early work because of what's going on site.
Now, we know from the Taoiseach's announcement yesterday where a number of non-essential businesses were asked to close today. The construction industry wasn't part of that closure.
Yeah.
Do you wish it had been, or are you looking for more clarity?
Well, yeah, really looking for more clarity, really, because, like as I said in my message to you, is like I'm only 23, like I've really no experience really on any. I don't think anyone does with what's going on at the minute, and I've tried ringing everyone. I tried ringing Citizens Advice, HSA, everyone. They've just passed me on to someone else, and I just don't really what to do at the minute. I've bills, insurance to pay every month, and this and that, and I'm getting absolutely nothing.
So, would you prefer a directive from the government to tell you to shut down, or do you want to be...
I think so. I think it would just make things easier, because if things are shut down, then I'm pretty sure my insurance company and banks and this and that, it'd all be much easier to deal with than saying like that we're still open and I've lads not turning in, so I'm not really making money then to cover it.
Yeah, okay, so you're in a situation where you can't necessarily voluntarily shut down because you might not be covered by insurance, but on the other side you're continuing to operate, but you've had a number of men refusing to go to work, refusing to travel on public transport and so on.
Yeah, and I have, in fairness, I've tried my best. I've gone out myself to try and get gloves, masks, hand sanitizers. I just can't get them anywhere. Just for the likes of lads that are travelling on public transport, I know people that are getting in cars and stuff aren't really in the best situation either, but I understand. I respect all the decisions that they don't want to go into work.
And let me ask you then, with your particular line of work, scaffolding, is it possible for the lads working for you to maintain social distance while they're working? And are they doing that?
Well, not really, considering most, they tell you 2 metres, so most scaffolds are 4 foot wide, so the number really out of there, you can't really stay away from each other. There's people walking past each other, there's people, one incident yesterday, one of the lads rang me why they went home was a guy's, one of them, like the ski masks, and he's pulling it down to have a smoke, and then he's spitting on scaffold boards and coughing, and we used to pick them up and pass them up, and then the likes of in the canteen on the site I'm on, I won't say which site I'm on, but there's an old lad in there, he's walking away, and then he's going out for his lunch, and he's dropping stuff on the table, and then he's picking it back up and eating it, and people just aren't being careful enough on the sites, and I know my lads are being careful, but it's just thinking of other people not.
Okay, so because you see the construction industry as a place where this virus can be spread because of how impossible it is for workers to stay apart, you would like a clearer directive from the government to essentially shut down building sites?
Yeah, really, because at the minute I'm actually just open just because I have to be. Just at the end of it all, when the dust settles, there's still going to be bills and all that sort of stuff, so you have to sort of think ahead as well, but at the same time, I think they need to get in their heads that the main thing at the minute and the main concern is people's health, and that's my main concern really from my workers.
And indeed, you, like you said, you have a number of employees. One employee has a father fighting cancer, another employee has asthma, and
a lot of them have asthma, actually. A good few have asthma. And in fairness, me father, he's actually given me a good helping hand. Like he used to work on sites and stuff, and he knows the gig, so he's actually been really a big help in trying to sort out all the lads as well. So.
Okay, so you don't believe that construction, certainly the work that you're doing is an essential service that should be maintained. You believe it should be given a rest for a couple of weeks in order to fight this virus? Yeah,
I do understand where the government's come from. Obviously, if you think about it, a lot of the sites are social housing and you're still fighting homelessness and all this sort of stuff. And I do understand that if construction stops, the country will stop really, money-wise and housing-wise. And I understand where they're coming from, but I think at the minute, the main concern for anyone really is people's health, so.
All right, Darragh. Well, look, I wish you well. I don't know if we're going to get any further clarity. The government have said they will take further measures as are necessary. So we'll just have to watch this space. But in the meantime, you're just going to continue as is until you're told otherwise.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep trucking on. And if people don't want to go to work, people don't have to go to work, and we're just gonna have to try and spread lads out evenly and try and keep sites going. And
all right, Darragh, well, I appreciate you talking to us on 98 FM.
Well, thanks for the call anyway, so everyone just fucking stay safe.
All right, good man. Thanks very much, Darragh.
Thanks.
230 lads on a site here in Wicklow, says this message. 2 metres is impossible. We did get sanitiser beside a machine, which we were told to use. If we don't use it, we'll be sent home. So it's money over health for developers, says that message. The point being here that the government did not order a shutdown of the construction sector. It's as simple as that. Now, Alice, you sent us a message with a theory as to why the building sites have been left open.
Yes. We reckon, my husband and myself and a couple of lads on the job he does, is someone has to pay the taxes for all the social welfare payments that are going out. And because all the other regular workers are sent home, shops closed, restaurants, someone has to work to get money into the country.
Now, there is an argument that, if the construction sector is shut down, you have literally shut down the country. And, I mean, that's a reasonable argument that we do. The state still needs money coming in. And if it's not getting it from all the workers who've been laid off, then it has to come from somewhere. But you think this is gambling with people's lives, do you?
Oh, yeah, of course it is. The site my husband's on, there's 1,400 plus men on it. Now, they are staggering lunch breaks, but he said still you're practically sat on top of each other.
And are they making any efforts to?
No. There's even one guy. He came in. He lives with his girlfriend. He came in and said she was waiting to be tested, and he went up to the office and told them, and they said, "She'll be grand. Get back down there and get on with your work."
Really?
Yeah, we're doing the best we can. He's no choice. Like a lot of people, he has to go to work to pay bills and.
Okay, and is he doing anything himself to protect himself and socially distance himself?
He this morning, some young lad come up to him and asked him for a cigarette, and my husband said no. He said, "Get away from me! You're getting nothing." Now, he felt really bad for it, but he said, you have lads on the site walking around just spitting, phlegm everywhere, coughing. You go into the bathroom. He won't even go to the toilet and walk. You go into the bathroom, there's not enough soap. Hand dryers aren't working. There is hand sanitizer, he said, but you have lads going into the toilet, not washing their hands, and then putting their hand on top of the pump to get the hand sanitizer out.
Okay, so a lot of it, and I do understand that the onus is now on the employer to make sure that the guidelines are being followed, but there is also a lot of personal responsibility. And I saw, for example, yesterday, a group of 6 lads sitting around, just around the corner from our office here, sitting around having a sandwich on their lunch break. Now, they were huddled in close to each other. That's not down to their employer. That's down to their own stupidity.
Of course, yeah, but when you're going into work and you're doing everything you can, he's coming home, he's getting stripped on the decking outside. I have hot water and soap waiting. He washes his face, his head, his arms, comes in, strips off, puts the clothes straight in the washing machine and goes straight to the shower. He will disinfect his car before I get into it.
Are you worried every day he goes to work?
Of course I am, yeah. I have a compromised immune system, so if he gets it, obviously I'm going to get it. Now, for the last 2 weeks, I have gone to the grocery shop twice, and I went out for a walk on my own in the park that there's very few people in. I'm avoiding everybody. I'm doing what I can. He's doing what he can. And as you say, then you have people sitting around in groups having lunches or having drinks, and then you have the big work building sites where it's practically mayhem. Where nobody, he said it to the health and safety officer in work, who just turned around and walked away.
Okay, so even though some believe that it is being taken a little bit more seriously, not enough. You would like the construction sector shut down as well?
Yes. Now, I know a lot of people need the money. We do. I asked him, could you not take holidays? He said he wouldn't have enough worked up. He said, if I leave, which a couple of fellas have done, he said, we've no money coming in. So, yourself, with bills to pay and whatnot, you kind of need money. He doesn't like having to go, and he's more concerned about coming home with something and giving it to me. And now I won't give it to anybody because I don't see anybody, but, I go into the shops, I wear gloves, I'm in, straight back out. I don't be in contact with anybody. But, I just think they're risking too many lives.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Alice. I wish you well. Thanks very much indeed. I would like to hear from you on 6797 981. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. We'll take a quick break. We're back in a second.
The sound of the city from Adamstown to Artane. Dublin Talks. 98 FM's Dublin Talks.
And this is Adrian Kennedy. We're here until midday today. Our telephone number, as always, is 6797 981. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. We're talking again following the government's announcement of the closure of a number of extra stores. In fact, what they announced yesterday was a list of stores that could remain open And they included the likes of pharmacies, retail and wholesale of food, beverages and newspapers, retail sale of household consumer products. It goes on and on and on. But non-essential services have been shut down, essentially. Now, as we mentioned earlier on, a lot of them were closed already. But we're talking about the construction sector again, and the fact that it hasn't closed down. It has remained open. Building sites, in fact, I was outside earlier on and you can hear building sites. In fact, it's the only thing you can actually hear in the city centre because there's so little traffic, but you can hear the construction sites still operating. One man that we spoke to on Monday is a man called John. He was the one who highlighted this to us in the first place. And to protect his identity, we used a voice disguise, which we're going to again today. John, there were very strict rules placed on us yesterday regarding social distancing, groups of no more than 4 people in a public place. So what has changed in your construction site?
How are you doing, Adrian? Well, to be honest with you, nothing has really changed. It's a disgrace. The only thing that has changed is when you come in the morning, you come through the turnstiles, you have sinks there to wash your hands, and then they have like line to do your 2 meters. But then when we walked in, and they said, right, keep a distance, and then as soon as I got to the corner, guys goes, go up on site as quick as you can, and then it's up to yourself there. There's no one there to make sure the lads are keeping a distance. I know we're all adults and we should, but I think everybody knows that when you're in construction, you can't keep a distance. It's not safe. Like,
okay, I mean, I was saying earlier on that, and in fact, this is something I've said a couple of times on the show, that every day I arrive home and I say to myself, could I have infected anyone today? And I aim every day for the answer to be no. And so far since this crisis, I can say with my hand on my heart, even if I had the virus, I can't have given it to anybody because I've been so safe and careful. And that's coming into work every day. You can't say that, can you?
Definitely not. Sure, I'm going home from work and I live with my mother and my grandmother and I don't want to go near them. I'm going home and I'm eating my dinner up in my bedroom. I'm staying well away from them because they're all isolating. I'm the only one in the house not doing it because I work in construction. And I can't go near them. I eat my dinner up in the bedroom. It's I don't know. I think the only reason I was listening, the only reason that construction sites are on, I think, is because the economy. I don't know. I think Leo must be worried about that.
And it's an understandable worry that the whole country will literally collapse if construction is shut down. And as I said, here in the city centre today, it's like a ghost town, and the only noise you can actually hear is the building sites. But you think, as you did on Monday, that the risk is too great with keeping sites open?
Yeah, and Mary Lou put a proposal forward to the government, and they obviously didn't go with that, but I was listening to her and she spoke like a proper Taoiseach. Leo Varadkar, he read it from a script. I think he's absolutely atrocious the way he's handled. He's just, it's swelled up.
Well, he in fairness to him, John, he is doing what the medical advisors advise. He's not making these decisions himself. He is following medical advice.
Do you believe that, Adrian? Do you not think medical advice would say close down construction?
No, because they haven't done it in the UK either, and they're getting separate medical advice. So building sites up the north are still open. It's not just here, it's in the UK as well.
I thought he was saying that they closed down the UK ones.
No, they've shut down some ones. Like, for example, they're building a new underground network in London. They've shut that down because it's underground. But an awful lot of sites still remain open in the UK.
Yeah, and as I said to you on Monday, I think it was, like, you've lads travelling from all over the country to get to these building sites. Effectively, if one person gets on this site, it's going to spread like wildfire.
And that is
all over the country. That's a fact.
Yeah, all right, okay. So nothing has changed, nothing has improved, you don't see any signs of improvement, and you believe that the building sites that you're working on, should there be an outbreak of COVID-19, it will spread like wildfire throughout people working there?
Definitely. And another thing as well, on Monday, I heard a lad, he said that builders are clogging up the shops, which I'd agree in some ways, but when I go to the shops, I keep me distance. And I'd like to see that man who's probably sits in a nice little office, I'd like to see him on a construction site canteen. They're disgusting, especially with this going on. You can't keep a distance in them canteens. My bedroom is bigger than them canteens.
Again, when I come back to talking about personal responsibility, John, and you're saying that the canteens are rammed with people or whatever, can you not just...
I didn't say that. I said the canteens are small. It's not that it's rammed.
But because they're small, then if a number of people are in there, they're not maintaining their social distance. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
So what would be to stop you going out for a walk and eating your sandwich while you're walking?
That's what I do. I go to the shop and then I sit in the field. I don't sit in the shop. I go to the shop, I get me rolling, and I'd sit on a bench or something like that.
All right, John, look, it's an awful pity that it appears nothing has changed or is changing. And in fact, I'm just being told, I don't know how true this is, that construction sites and factories in Italy are apparently still open. I don't know how true that is. Maybe somebody can confirm that for me. Deborah, you're on 98 FM. Hiya, Deborah.
Hello, how are you?
Now, Deborah, your husband is also working on a site, and you're saying that, as John was saying there, this is impossible to implement social distancing, or these workplaces are impossible.
Absolutely, yeah. I completely agree with that statement. I think it's impossible, to keep the distance. The materials that they have to work with and carry with, and as another caller mentioned there, some of the scaffolding is only 4 foot wide. It's impossible to implement the 2 metre distance. It can't be done. And as you were saying there, I do realise the canteens and that are still open. And it is on, each individual to kind of, personal distance, but it also is on the onus of the employer. There should be things in place implementing them, stopping people coming into the canteen, and they're not doing that.
Yeah, okay, so do you believe that they should all be shut down? Is that what you want
Absolutely.
to see? Do you want to see your husband out of work?
Absolutely, because if he chooses to do it on his own accord at the minute, he's not entitled to money. So he's putting people at risk. He actually received a letter. I think there's 1,200 people working on the particular site he's on, and they've each received a letter, and in it has said there's 10 suspected cases of COVID-19 after being established on the site. They're waiting for confirmation, and like their previous caller just said, it's going to spread like wildfire. There's no point in saying that them 10 people are now not on the site. They have been though up until yesterday. So I just think it's crazy. I think the health and safety of people is supposed to be, according to our Taoiseach, the number one priority, and it's just not applying that to everybody in the population.
Again, I have to say to you, Deborah, that we all have our own role to play in this, in terms of keeping our social distance. Are you telling me that even if your husband went to work today and he said to himself, I am going to keep my social distance for my entire workday today, are you telling me it is impossible for him to do that?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how actually anxious and nervous he is around this COVID-19. He's really, really anxious and nervous. He takes every precaution possible. He strips down before he comes into the house with a young baby and stuff in the house. He's really, really nervous. He's actually got a bit of anxiety due to it and all. It's really, really bad, as everyone in the country is. It's a huge pandemic. He physically can't. Like I said, some of the materials that he's to carry from A to B, he has to carry with another person for health and safety reasons of other sorts. And the scaffolding and stuff, people he's working with, the canteen, just before now he doesn't go to the canteen. He knows other people that are in vans together that have to work and transport stuff. It is impossible for him to do it. He does do it as much as he can, but he can't do it all day, every day in work. Okay,
so he is trying his very best.
Oh, absolutely,
okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I've just confirmed that the construction sites are still open in Italy. So,
wow.
And that's a country that, as we know, has had a major problem with COVID-19, but the construction sites are still open.
Probably because Italy. The construction sites are still open.
Yeah, I don't know if it's... Well, who knows? That's the question. Who knows? Mark, I'm going to take a quick break and I'll talk to you straight after the break. He sent us a photograph in of a lack of social distancing. And in fact, I'm just looking at the photograph right now, and it is a load of lads They are, they're nearly hugging each other. They're that close together. Call me right now on 6797 981. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note like Andrew just did.
Yeah, Adrian, just currently on a site here in D4. Possibly 400 people on it. Absolutely ridiculous. Walking up a stairwell this morning, I counted 8 people on a small stairwell, just walking by each other. What else? Just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I've no choice but to come to work. Have a kids at home. It's just absolutely ridiculous. No social distance, none of it whatsoever. It's absolutely ridiculous how we're still in here. I'm afraid of bringing her home to the baby. She's only 3. I just don't know how we're still going. It's people spitting on the ground. It's fucking ridiculous.
Mind the language there, Andrew. But anyway, again, this comes down to personal responsibility. To the lads who are hoggering on the ground, stop it. You're working with other people. You can't ask Leo Varadkar to legislate for people spitting. And you're about the third person, Andrew, who's mentioned that. Lads, if you're working on a site, just stop spitting. We'll take a quick break. Mark, I'll be with you straight after that break.
The sound of the city, from Ballybrack to Ballymun. Dublin Talks. 98 FM's Dublin Talks.
And this is Adrian Kennedy. We're here until midday today. This message came in to us. It says, I'm a subcontractor. It's impossible to keep workers apart. I've stopped working on a project in Wicklow and my workforce is at home. A couple of my lads are waiting to be tested. Also, it appears that many subcontractors are being told that if they stop, the main contractors will take them to court for breaking contracts. I think the government are protecting the banks because of the huge finance commitments given to the industry between equipment finance and capital investments to the developers, says that message. Harry sent me this WhatsApp voice note.
Adrian, we work on a site here, there's over 200 people. There's plumbers walking on top of each other. You have to clock in and out. How are you meant to keep social distance if plumbers are walking on top of each other? There's people going up and down the ladders on sites, not wearing gloves. It's just mayhem on some of the sites.
All right, Harry. Mark, you're on a site at the moment. You sent us that photograph that I mentioned, and what I can see in the photograph is a group of 4 or 5 lads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lads, all very, very close to each other.
Yeah, they're practically sitting on top of each other.
Oh, sorry, Mark. Bear with me for 1 second. I still have the voice guys on. They're practically... Oh, sorry. He does, sorry. They are practically on top of each other.
Yeah, that's it. Like, it's just a bit crazy. I don't think it's not in a realistic world can you keep social distance, and honestly, it's a bit mad. And then the main issue, I think, is the commute into work and then the commute home. Obviously, everybody more or less travels in with someone else in that car. In my case, the 4 was in the car. 4
of you in the one car?
Yeah.
Okay, all from different families, different households, all sharing one car.
Yeah.
Could these lads not get to work otherwise?
Well, it's either that or it's public transport. But so the public transport is just as bad.
Well, it's actually not. The public transport, and in fact I was talking to a couple of my colleagues here, and there's very few of us in this building, all of whom got public transport and say it's empty.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. I know somebody who got the Lewis in this morning, and he was the only one in his carriage on the Lewis. When have you ever heard that? So public transport, and from what I understand from the likes of Dublin Bus, they are keeping up the normal weekday schedule. So buses are running very regularly, and that means that they're running empty pretty much. So it's actually it's safe enough.
That's actually right, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. It is safe enough.
We were clocking in this morning, and we had us standing, like, obviously trying to keep everyone standing 2 metres apart, and then a van pulls up with something like 8 people getting out. It's just a bit mad. Like, the cycle is crazy. So they're obviously had a been together in the van. If one of them had to board, then the rest of them more than likely has it now.
But let me ask you, do you think, Mark, that things can be improved, that it can be made better in order for construction to continue?
Well, the only way is to cut the numbers down on the actual site. Like,
One suggestion that was made actually in a message a couple of minutes ago is staggered shifts, working over 18 hours of the day rather than 12. Would that work?
Well, I'm not sure. Like, but see, at the end of the day, you're always going to be in contact with other people on the site. There's no way that you can carry out your job without help, like on a construction site. Like, and on a lot of construction sites, there's a thing called a buddy system as well. That means that you're not actually allowed to work on your own on a lot of sites. So
for health and safety reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, so regardless of whether people are working different shifts or whatever, it's still impossible because of health and safety issues. Yeah. All right, Mark, thanks very much indeed. 6797 981 is our telephone number. This is WhatsApp voice note from Jason.
Adrian, why is everybody getting such a panic? It's a virus, it's a pandemic, whatever you want to call it. It will come, it will go. Proper hygiene, do your best to stay away. Just keep washing your hands. I mean, everybody's panicking. The world still has to go on. We can't have more people dying because of the cure than because of the virus. And in all fairness, they're not hitting the numbers that they were all telling us last week. So calm down, people. I'm still working.
All right, Jason. The worry is, Jason, and look, I get this from people, and I know what you're saying about calm down and everything else, but all it takes is one guy to bring the virus into a site with 200, 400, 600. We heard of one site with 1,500 people on it. And if one person brings that virus into that site, it could spread like wildfire, because it is practically impossible to keep your social distancing on a building site. Keith is having a go at me.
Well, Adrian, you're not listening, are you? Will you just stop saying it's down to social, it's down to own responsibility. I worked on a site for 15 years, nearly 20 years. You can't keep your distance. You know, people have to carry stuff together. They're hoping that they're using the same tools. Gloves me arse. Right, gloves aren't making a difference here, right? You need to listen to people. You keep coming back with the same thing, saying it's down to your own responsibility. It sounds to me you've never worked on a site before. You have no idea what it's like, right? How would you take a walk over and have a look? You can't lift plaster boards on your own, right? It's all. You need people beside you. It's as simple as that. So get off your high horse about social responsibility. Listen to what people are saying to you, will you?
I am, Keith. Relax there, God's sake. I am listening to what people are saying to me, and I understand the issues. I've family members who are in the building game. I understand the problem of how people have to be together to do certain tasks and certain jobs. I'm wondering, our sites, I've heard of some sites that are improving, are making it easier for people to stay apart. Maybe that's what we just need to do, make it easier for lads to stay apart. Or is your solution, Keith, to just shut everything down? Alma, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Alma.
Hi, how are you?
Alma, your husband works on sites and he wasn't happy with the announcements made by the Taoiseach yesterday.
No, he wasn't at all. He thought they would close down, and all his co-workers basically thought the same. So they were basically saying it's impossible. They can't keep the social distance. Now, saying that on Monday morning, there was a guy at the gate checking temperatures. And there was somebody sent home with a temperature and told not to come back for 14 days and go get a test.
Okay, very good. So that's something. That means they're trying to prevent somebody. I mean, if you're on a building site and you're guaranteed that everybody on the site doesn't have the virus, then you're good to go. But that's the problem. You don't know who has and who hasn't.
Yeah, and also he was saying before they enter on site there was a wash hand stuff, and they had to wash their hands in front of somebody, and at the canteen they had to do the same. When they went for their canteen break, they had to go and wash their hands in front of somebody before they were let into the canteen. So I don't know.
Okay, so that is improvement, isn't it? So
that was Monday now, but now yesterday I think a lot of the lads were saying, the brookies were saying they weren't going to come back, that they didn't feel that it was safe, they were afraid. And he basically turned around and told them, that's fine, you don't have to come back if you don't want to, but there'll be no job here waiting for you. And if you do decide to go, I'll bring a few guys from the UK and they'll be here on Monday. And that's what he said. He was gone. Then he went mad altogether.
What about, sorry, just to come back to you about the temperature thing, did they only do that on Monday?
I actually never asked him, but he did say to me on Monday that they were going to be doing it for the week. They're going to be doing it. Now, I don't know who's doing it. Is it someone from just works there or some, I don't know who was doing it, but he said they were doing it. And one guy had a really high temperature. He told him to wait outside for 15 minutes and he'd check it again. And then he said, no, you have to go and get tested and you can't come back on site for 14 days. So they were doing that, like, so. I
mean, there's a very simple way of dealing with this, just to temperature check everybody coming onto a site, and if they've an elevated temperature, bye-bye, go on off home and stay there for 2 weeks. Isn't it?
Yeah, well.
It seems very simple. All right, let me bring in a couple more calls on this. Sam, you're on 98 FM. Tell me what you saw on a site this morning, Sam.
How's it going, Adrian?
Good, thanks, Sam.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm looking away here. I'm on two separate sites. What they're doing is there was a questionnaire given out now to ask you whether you've been in different countries and that. And I know that doesn't make any odds, but they do. They have two lads that would usually be live, and they have them going around, they're spraying the door handles, cleaning the toilets, canteens. I mean, every half an hour, 40 minutes, everything that someone touches is getting sprayed here on this site. And the other site that I've been on.
Well, that's good. That's great, isn't it?
Well, that is great. At least that's trying, you know. And you have I'm bricklaying here by myself at the minute, Adrian, and you have the labour comes over to me. He doesn't stick around.
Sorry, Sam, it's really, your phone's gone off and muffled. Very hard to hear you.
Sorry,
that's much better. Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah, the labour that comes over to me and he'll give me stuff. He won't stick around for longer than 5 minutes, and he has to go then he's gone to do other stuff and he'll be back. So it's handy enough in that sense if you can get away with doing that. But I understand lads here on the radio where if they're lifting glass or whatever and you need 3 or 4 men working together, that is hard, that is an issue, you know.
Okay, but for you, in the site that you're working on, you think they're making efforts to clean everything that people are touching. You happen to be working on your own right now. Okay. So you feel fairly safe in work today?
Yeah, grand, and it has been good, and the foreman's been telling me my breaks and when I can go in. So usually I take 10 till half 10, Adrian, but today I have half 10 till 11, and I don't mind that because that means there's only 2 or 3 lads on that time, and we won't be bumping into many people that way, you know. And
that's very good, Jim.
So they're doing it well here. They're doing it well on this side. I hope it's the same for every.
It's not the same for everyone by the sounds of it, but it can be, and that's the point. And it is down to the employer to make sure that systems are put in place to make sites safer. So, all right, Sam, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Adrian, it's not simple. Temperature can be normal and people still have it. Yes, of course they can. But it at least is something to go towards trying to prevent somebody getting on the site if they are not feeling well. Okay? And a huge reaction to this. How are we supposed to wash our hands or even go to the toilet? It's a joke, says somebody who sent me a video of a little shed of a toilet. Adrian, you're a gas man. You're more animated about lads not keeping 2 metres away from each other than you are about bosses who don't give a damn about their employees. The only way to tackle this will be to close the sites and all factories that are non-essential. Anything else is a damp squib. All right, thank you very much indeed for all of your calls. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. This is Adrian Kennedy. By the way, I could take calls on this until tea time. There's so much stuff coming in on it. But it's got to continue to come up in conversation until something is actually done about it. But here's another conversation I want to have with you after the break. I don't know if you saw the photographs that did the rounds. We were sent a number of different versions of this particular photograph. It's on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Adrian K and Jeremy D. And these are photographs that were taken here in Dublin of a gang of teenagers, and I mean a gang of teenagers. There's well over 50 teenagers all gathered together, all huddled together in a park on Dublin's north side. And I have a question for you. Is it time to have an under-18s curfew? End of. We're back in a sec. It's 11 o'clock across Dublin. Good morning. This is Adrian Kennedy. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. And this is Emma with Tuesday's top headlines.
Thanks, Adrian. Good morning. The government has defended the decision to allow construction sites and factories to remain open despite health concerns. All non-essential retail shops are closed from today, with thousands of people who were in work yesterday now spending it at home. A teenage boy has been arrested in connection with an investigation into people coughing on others on purpose. He was picked up for a public order offence in Waterford on Monday. Separately, a nurse says a group of teenagers surrounded and coughed on her while she was out for a run in Clontarf. A man and a woman in their 20s have been arrested and charged in connection with a shop robbery in Dundrum. Armed with a knife, a sum of cash was taken during the raid that happened shortly after 9 o'clock last night. And Britain's Prince Charles has tested positive for the coronavirus. Clarence House says he's been displaying mild symptoms, but is otherwise in good health. And now you're up to date on 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Call 6797 981.
This is Adrian Kennedy. Sorry, I was just distracted by something else coming in here. We are about to have a conversation that I'd like you to join in. We were talking about social distancing on building sites and how impossible it is to maintain social distancing on building sites. The government defending the decision to leave sites open. I know that there will be more site surveys done to make sure that social distancing is being adhered to over the next couple of days. Anyhow, I want to move the conversation on to social distancing of another kind, and that is amongst our young people. I don't know if you heard that story in the news of a woman out for a walk and somebody spits at them. Oh, makes me so annoyed. Anyway, here is a story of, and by the way, if this has happened to you, if you've been confronted by teenagers acting the maggot like that, let me know. 6797 981 is our telephone number. Anyway, a photograph doing the rounds, taken at May Park in Donecarney, and it shows an extremely large group of teenagers in the park at Donecarney. Gathered, some of them have bikes. They are very, very huddled together. There's a lot of them. There's, I would reckon, maybe 30, 40, 50, something around that. And it's only one photograph of many that has been sent in to us of teenagers congregating in a way in which our new social distancing guidelines tells us we can't do. Okay? And we want to hear from you on 6797 981. I have a very simple question for you. Obviously, many adults still need to go to work and have to leave the house, have to go to work. For example, I am here in work today because I have to be, because the sort of show that we do can't be done from home, and that's why I'm in the studio. But I am being responsible. My colleagues are all being responsible. We're keeping our distance, and we, as soon as I'm finished here, I go straight back home again and stay there for the day. However, teenagers don't have to go to work. They don't have to, be in a certain shop because they're still open or whatever. Is it time for us to have a curfew for under 18s? Because, as you know, children, as we have heard, statistically don't get this virus bad, don't get severe complications, although there have been examples of young people even dying from this COVID-19. But generally speaking, they are not the ones that are getting very sick from it. They can, however, have the virus and spread the virus without, in some cases, even knowing that they had the virus. So my question to you is, bearing in mind that some people, like the guys in construction who may not want to be going to work but can go to work, there are other people in other essential services that have to go to work. So they have to be let outside their front doors. What about young people? And my question to you is, should there be some sort of a curfew for under 18s? Now, the majority of parents are being very, very responsible and are keeping their kids indoors or taking them out for walks with their mammy and daddy, and that's the way we've been asked to do this. I want to hear any examples that you may have of teenagers not observing social distancing. I'm not just talking about teenagers, younger kids as well, although I hope they're not congregating. Call me right now on 6797 981. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Do we need some sort of a curfew on teenagers? Because let's call a spade here. We are only one step away from a complete lockdown where we're all locked in our houses. None of us really wants to get there, but that's where we could be very well heading. And I want to ask, should we at least limit teenagers being out and about and congregating and in some disgusting cases spitting at people, spitting on shopping trolleys? All of the stuff that we have heard is just mind-boggling. If you've witnessed anything like that happening, please let us know on 6797 981. Now, Roshan, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Roshan?
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
You were very annoyed seeing these photographs.
I am, yeah. It's really annoying me that the fact that other countries are in lockdown already and we're behind. I genuinely think that the country should have took it seriously when they closed down the schools. They should have locked down as well. And then everyone was just kind of panicking as well and looting shops for everything, which left old people with nothing as well. And then you've got the teenagers who obviously just think this is like the flu and isn't going to, do anything to them. And a curfew to me, I don't think would appeal very much because they just hop out the back window. That kind of way.
Yeah, but will they all be able to hop out the back window? That's the question.
I say so. No, maybe, this generation. But if the Guardian Army came together, and kind of worked together, I think we'd have a better chance of getting it under control, more or less.
So, okay, but if there were a curfew for young people, at least parents then have a reason to say,
they'd feel more calm and
sorry Johnny, you can't go out because the law says you can't go out. At least they have something.
They'd be more scared, and then if the parent said, you have to pay the fine if you're caught outside, they wouldn't go out because they wouldn't want to pay it.
Okay, so how do we stop gangs of teenagers like these photographs that we're seeing from Donnycarney? How do we stop them congregating like this? Because it is still happening. And I know the guards now have the power to break them apart, to stop more than 4 people congregating together in a public place.
I genuinely think there should be about 6 or 7 Gardaí in that area. If they know what's been going on and they see this on your show, go back to those areas, patrol them, do what they can. Because it's happening up here where I live in Dublin town, and it's a disgrace.
So tell me what's happening there.
Well, I'm at the back of Ballyfermot near Park West, so they'll all gather in groups of about 60 or 70 and go into the park. There's a park where we are, and they just all sit there and light fires, and they're all drinking and everything.
Okay, so
disgraceful.
Is a lockdown of kids not required here then? If 70 plus are gathering in groups, surely...
I genuinely think there should be a curfew and then a lockdown. Definitely. And the way things are going, we will be locked down.
Well, it will be locked down if we don't behave ourselves. This is the same conversation we had yesterday.
Yeah.
If we can behave ourselves, if we can get this virus under control, there won't be a need for a lockdown. However, as we've seen with construction, as we saw in Howth on Sunday, we can't be trusted. And this applies as much to teenagers as it does to everybody else. Because they can spread the virus themselves.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm paranoid because my boyfriend works in the Lewis, and OCS won't. They say, look, we need the Lewis to keep going. We need money coming in. The government aren't going to shut us down. We have to keep going. And every time he comes home, I'm just paranoid to be in the same house. But he has nowhere else to go.
Are you staying away from him?
Well, I sit on the other side of the sofa, and he sits on the other end. And then obviously we're sharing the same bed, but I face the wall and he faces the wall. But I'm still I still believe that it's in the air as well. I don't believe it's just by being near somebody. That's just my opinion.
Mm.
Well, so I put on the shower. So
I know, but you can't. There are things you can do to protect yourself to keep your social distance.
Yeah, I won't even let him near me, Adrian.
But that's what I was about to say. Are you sleeping in a different bed?
No.
No, you see, there you go.
Because he won't. I've asked him to go into the spare room, and he won't. He says this is my bed as well as yours, and so there's not much I can do in that aspect.
All right, stay there for a second. You fully support the idea of a curfew for under 18s. Okay.
I do.
I want to run a Dublin Talks text poll right now. Where I want to ask you that question. We've seen problems with teenagers congregating, and we're asking, should there be a curfew? We've all sorts of radical laws being brought in. It's not outside the realms of possibility. In order to prevent teenagers congregating in the way in which they are, is it time that we introduced a curfew for teenagers? That's not to say they can't go outside the front door. They can go outside the front door for a walk with mammy and daddy from the same household. But in order to prevent, and as I said, that lady there just said, Ballyfermot, 70 plus teenagers congregating. The photographs that we saw from Donecarney showed teenagers clearly congregating, a very large crowd of them. So my question to you is, should we introduce a curfew for teenagers? Well, for under 18s, essentially. Unless maybe they have a job. What I want you to do is text, please, the word yes or no to 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. Please text the word yes or no to that number right now. 0877 98 98 98. Should we have a curfew for under 18s? And that will stop them. Now, a curfew, by the way, doesn't apply necessarily to after dark. It applies all day, because those photographs that we were showing on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Adrian K and Jeremy D, were taken in broad daylight. And in fact, come next week, broad daylight will last even longer into the evening. And we're asking, should we have a curfew for under 18s? Call me right now on 6797 981. Billy, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Billy?
Adrian, yeah, how you doing? Yeah, of course we should have a curfew. I work in a, I work in a shopping centre. I'm doing security. And even before the coronavirus, we have groups of teenagers coming around all the time. But lately, the last few weeks, they've been coming around, cycling in on bikes and all. They think it's all a big laugh. I've been shouting at them. I just have no time for them, what they're doing. There's people losing their jobs.
So give me an idea of the sorts of things they're carrying on with.
They're coming in, they're cycling on their bikes, they're going up, there's an area, I'd say, I don't want to give it away where I am, there's an area cordoned off where you normally eat food. They congregate around the area, and I just go up and say, come on, out. A few of them put their feet on the tables that are up there left, but the seats are gone. You know what I mean? This is all kind of germ spreading, just antisocial behaviour. And we've got 2 guards now assigned to this shopping centre and the area, and the same is happening all over them. But don't know why that can't happen permanently. But yeah, definitely they should be, anyone breaking it there, they should be fined like in France.
And let me ask you, Billy, okay, you're saying working in security at a particular shopping centre, they're making your life hell, essentially.
Well, that's right, but I don't take any nonsense off them. Neither did one or two of the other lads. We don't. But I was, as you know, Adrian, I've been in the bar trade for about 28 years, I was. And I took a lot of threats over the years, like I'm supposed to be dead, but I've never gotten as many threats as I have the last 4 or 5 days.
Really? Like what sorts of threats?
Yeah, I know one fella had a full bottle of wine in his jacket, and he turned his head to break it over my head, and I says, will you? I just laughed at him, but I stayed close enough to him so he wouldn't get out. Just the threats get me on the way home. You know, the usual, but I got them in the bar trade. But I'm saying I got a hell of a lot over the years in the bar trade, but the last 4 days I've got every day. I went to work on Saturday with one aim. I don't normally have an aim. I went to work to try and get by the day without getting threatened, just to see could I manage it, and I think I did. But they're just coming up. They've no fear of anything.
So what age are we talking about?
You could be talking up from 13 up to 17, you know?
Hanging around in big gangs.
Yeah, big gangs, and there were some from the area, some from outside the area, you know.
And, I mean, like I said, we're talking about something that, had we been having this conversation 6 weeks ago, would be such a hypothetical thing, it might never have happened, but we're now in the realm of bringing in laws that are very drastic. Is one of those laws a curfew on under 18s?
But see, Adrian, the gas thing about is 6 weeks ago, we wouldn't have been having the conversation. But this antisocial behaviour, Adrian, believe it or not, I don't think I'm going over the top. It's happening whether there's a coronavirus or not. It's happening all over shopping centres in Dublin.
I know, but it is a particular issue now because of the risk of the spread of this
100%.
virus.
and they're off school now, and they thought when they got off school it's a holiday, but it's not. They're putting it, like, people are losing their jobs. People are being very good, like yourself, myself. We're trying to do our best social distance. We're doing everything asked of us, and these morons, this is what they are. They're morons, and these are going to pass it to people, and these are going to escalate the numbers. And I don't care what's done to them, but they should be took off the street if they break this curfew, or the Gardaí have the power now, and they should use it, put them in cells, just leave them there for 2 or 3 weeks. Do their work.
I don't think we're talking about rounding up teenagers and locking them away.
No, I'm saying,
Billy,
but if they break the curfew, put them away. It's no joke. The numbers are all pretty reasonable at the moment, but they could go up by these morons.
Okay, the question that I'm asking is, do we need a curfew for under 18s? Your answer is yes.
Yes, and anybody that is under 18 that has a lawful job just needs proof that they're going to work. Yes, we do need a curfew, and if anyone's broken up, Adrian, they do need to be
because in fact somebody just texted me in a second ago, and I'll read out their message. Yes. I'm a 17-year-old. I think you wanting teenagers under 18s to have a curfew is wrong, and I understand they're congregating, but basically this young person who... Sorry, I'm after losing the message now. This person is... working, and you would agree that if a young person is working, this particular young person is working in a pharmacy, you would have no problem with that person 100%. Continuing to go to work. Yes,
no problem with anybody working. They should be good. Just say when they're stopped by the Gardaí, like I could be in the next couple of weeks, I'll just say I'm working in the security, show me badge, and no, the young lad 17 should have no problem, and off he goes on his way. But anybody that doesn't have any business being out shouldn't be out, and it should be a curfew 100%.
Okay, stay there for 1 second, Billy. 6797 981 is our telephone number. We're asking you, should the government implement a curfew on teenagers in order to prevent the spread of this virus? That's what all this social distancing is about. And this social distancing applies to everybody in society in order to prevent the spread of this virus. Now, as we've been discussing, the issue with construction sites is a problem, but another issue is the congregation of teenagers. Sorry, I've just found that lady's message, that young person's message to read out again. Sorry. The incidents of not social distancing last weekend were not teenagers. Glendalough was not groups of teenagers. If you're going to have a curfew for under 18s, you need to have one for everybody. And by you saying teenagers don't have to work, I'm 17, working in a pharmacy 6 days a week, which is essential. So by saying teenagers don't have to work, I didn't say that, don't work, I have to work, so it's not all teenagers out causing trouble. And to be honest, I'm quite sick of hearing that it's teenagers only not obeying the social distancing guidelines, because that's not true. Okay, I agree with you that it isn't just teenagers. But we do have a particular problem with teenagers congregating in the way in which they are. Call me right now on 6797 981. If you're dead set against the idea of having a curfew for young people, I'd like to hear from you. Adrian, I'm honestly shocked at the minute, because I live in Drimna, says this message. Generally, we've a lot of kids and teenagers hanging around. At the minute, there are no gangs in the area that I have seen. I'm working from home for one of our banks. I'm out for walks by myself twice a day for my sanity. Even the teenagers that are out on bikes are wearing gloves and masks. Can honestly say that from what I have seen, the kids are adhering better than some of the adults who are standing right behind you in a queue or ignoring the bright yellow signs in all our local shops. That being said, I'd fully support a curfew to help parents enforce getting their kids home to stop antisocial behaviour. And this is part of the suggestion here, that a curfew for young people is to help parents. Because I can imagine how difficult it is to keep a 14 or 15 or 16-year-old indoors. You live in a 2-bed apartment. How do you keep them in? Call me right now on 6797 981 and keep your votes coming in. The question that I'm asking is, and you just text the word yes or no, would you support the introduction of a curfew for under 18s? Text yes or no to 0877 98 98 98.
The sound of the city from Clondalkin to Clontarf.
Dublin Talks.
98 FM's Dublin Talks.
Good morning from Adrian Kennedy. If you look at our Facebook page at facebook.com/Adrian K and Jeremy D, facebook.com/Adrian K and Jeremy D, you will see on our Facebook page photographs that were taken in the Donecarney area of a very large group of teenagers congregating in a park just off the main Malahide Road. And there was a lot of them. And it's not the first example we've seen. There have been many, many examples of similar congregations of teenagers. And we were asking whether or not we need some sort of a curfew for under 18s, except if they have a job and they're going to work, as that young lady who works in the pharmacy said she used to go to work, so it wouldn't apply to her. But the whole idea is to restrict gatherings, is to stop teenagers congregating. And I also want to hear from you if you are a parent of a teenager. And let me know how you're keeping them under control. How are you stopping them going out and congregating in large groups? Or are you? Have you just had to let them go out? Peter, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Peter?
Morning, how are you doing?
Good, thank you, Peter. What did you want to say on this?
Well, it's not only that, the older teenagers, I was just telling you, a researcher there, I live out the country there and that, and where there was a school where parents were coming down and dropping their kids off for the playground and the small pitch out the back, and then coming back and picking them up.
Right, okay.
And you're there, but other people, as you said, are working, coming home, they're mixing with their own kid, and then they're sending them all up and coming back in an hour's time or whatever, picking them up, and you're there. Sure, how is that containing it?
No, it isn't, is the simple answer to that.
But just that's pure, just the mentality of people. And you know what? They're on about the social distance and all that. You get another good weekend this weekend. There mightn't be as many out, but wait till you see there will be people still trying to go, even though the car and parking up and out. If there's another good weekend this weekend.
Well, there is going to be another good weekend this weekend. The weather says as much. It's going to be a very pleasant weekend. But certainly from what we've seen from the government, what we witnessed last weekend is not going to happen again, in that the Gardaí are going to be at all of the main places that people congregated last weekend.
Well, you'd be hoping, but as far as that... a curfew on teenagers, yeah. But what do you do with them during the day? I mean, I was talking to somebody where they were down and they were spitting on the handles of trolleys.
Yeah, no, I know.
We've
heard many stories like that, and they're shocking. One woman out for a jog got spat at by a teenager. I mean, honest to God, it's just disgusting. Stay there for a second. Patrick, tell me what you witnessed at your local German retailer.
Yeah, so yesterday I was in just picking up a few bits for myself, and these two little tow rags came in with their arms completely stretched out wide, given about a metre stretch, I'd say, threatening that if anybody touched off their fingertips at all, that they were going to cough in their face. I think it was pretty much cough in their face, basically. And one of them was literally like an inch, his finger was an inch from me. I was kind of hoping he would actually touch me because I wanted to hit the little fucker in the face.
Was this in the store?
In the store. They only had one security guard up the top of the store. He wasn't even circulating the store to see what was going on. But, I mean, these lads were shouting this all over the place, and your man didn't give a flying.
You know what, yeah. So hang on. So I just want to get this in my head. So they're walking along, they have their arms outstretched, and they're saying what?
Basically, if anyone touches off their fingers while they're walking, they're going to cough in their face.
Good God.
And these are, I would say, maybe 15 years of age.
15 years of age, right. How many of them?
Just the two of them.
Just the two of them.
But this isn't the first I've seen. I mean, it's usually quiet enough in this area, but lately, with them being off school, I've been seeing a good few of them around shouting the odds off. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of getting a bit disgusting now that the parents aren't looking after them.
And this is part of the problem here, in my opinion, that I understand how difficult it must be for parents to say to a 14 or 15-year-old, no, you're not going outside the door. Or for the parent to say, okay, you can go outside the door, but you're only to hang around with one friend. and then they don't do as they're told.
No, absolutely not.
So it seems to me that a simple solution for parents is to introduce some sort of a curfew that makes it illegal for them to be out.
Well, that's what needs to happen, but I mean, is it going to happen is the question.
Okay, but stay there for 1 second, because Sophie, you are a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
And you totally disagree with the idea of a curfew.
Well, I understand that it is some teenagers doing these things, but it's just not all unfair to be portrayed that it's all teenagers.
No, nobody is suggesting it's all teenagers. No. And in fact, it was your message I read out a while ago, was it?
I'm not sure.
Do you work in a pharmacy?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it was your message. I read out your message a while ago. And nobody would for 1 second suggest that you shouldn't be able to go to work. You're working in an essential service. We need our pharmacies at this time. So nobody would be in any way saying you can't go to work. And you're obviously not one of the teenagers who's congregating in large groups.
I think, no, it wasn't even the teenage thing. It was the under 18s curfew, because I think it's not, like, if you are going to put a curfew, I think it has to be for everybody. That was more my thing with it. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so, bearing in mind that nobody would be suggesting that you can't go to work, how else do you control gangs of teenagers hanging around like this?
I think it has to be just, I don't even know how you can stop it, because it happens regardless of...
I know, but the problem that we have now, I know it happens at any other time of the year, but the problem that we have now is the spread of this virus. This has nothing to do with gangs of teenagers. This is to do with the fact that one in a group of 30 or 40 teenagers could have the virus. 10 of them could pick it up from that person and bring it home to their granny and their granddad and their mammy and their daddy and everything else, and not even get sick themselves.
I know, it's terrible.
And that's what this is about.
Yeah. No,
so how do you stop that if you don't stop them getting out of their houses?
I don't know, but I think if obviously they need to have a bit more cop on and a bit more sense put into their heads about it.
Yeah.
But I just think that if you're going to stop teenagers just coming out, because obviously I understand that they're not the only ones that can get, or there's a less chance of them getting it bad, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But I do think that it's not only the younger people.
No, I do agree with you.
If you're going to stop people, like teenagers coming out of the house, you have to stop what would you consider a teenager under 18?
Yeah, but that was what we were suggesting, under 18, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like there's 19, 20-year-olds that are probably less of a chance as well of having it than under 18s.
Okay, so you don't agree with the idea of a curfew?
No, I agree with the idea of a curfew, just not for only under 18s. For everybody.
All right, fair enough. Okay, thanks very much indeed. Let me give you the results of our poll. Actually, you might be interested in the results of our poll, Sophie. We were asking people, would they support the introduction of a curfew for under 18s? Now, I know you're saying this curfew should apply to everybody, which is essentially lockdown, as we've been talking about. Yeah. 90% of our listeners who voted in our poll said that they would support a curfew for under 18s. 90%.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I agree under 18, like a curfew, but I just think it should be for everybody and not just solely for under 18s.
All right. Good to talk to you. Thanks very much, Sophie. And keep up the good work in that pharmacy.
Thank you.
Fair play. Thanks very much indeed. I agree. There should be a curfew. It's not only teenagers. On Monday, I brought my young son for a treat of a Happy Meal before McDonald's closed. In the Kylemore premises, a man can only be described as a scumbag, giving the security guard absolute dog's abuse. The man was being refused being served. It went on for over 10 minutes, racially abusing him. In the end, he gave up, shouted at the man just doing his job that it's your people brought it to us, i.e. COVID-19. He continued, and then, to the horror of everyone in the McDonald's practicing social distancing, he full-on spat in the security man's face. I had my son in my arms and not letting him down at all. I'm a single mum, just wanted to give him a little treat. As the man passed me, he turned around and spoke very loudly. and you Chinese, you know what, you and your young fella are what brought it back here and just gave her dog's abuse. My God almighty. I am half Chinese, lived here in Dublin my entire life. My son is a quarter Chinese. I haven't been to China in the last 20 years. I'm 20. I don't know why you have to feel the need to justify yourself, but anyhow, I've never been racially abused, was quite taken aback and upset. Not one person or staff member commented. I think it's disgusting. I was terrified and can't imagine how scary it is for someone to be spat on right now with everything that is going on. And that's from a lady called Jennifer. Let me bring in one last call on this. And we're asking whether or not we need a curfew for under 18s. Aod, you're on 98 FM. How are you?
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Good, thank you. You think that even if we brought in a curfew, some of these little toe rags will just ignore it anyhow?
Well, I think, Adrian, it's down to the parents. Every parent is responsible for their child.
I know, but some clearly aren't taking that responsibility.
Well, you see, we have these curfews now, or we're hoping to put a curfew in place, but there's new provisions that have been brought in for the guards.
Yes.
It's like saying to a child, don't do that, and then continuing all day long saying, don't do that. You have to do something to mean what you say.
What do you mean by that? Okay, explain to me what you mean.
Whatever the provisions are that the guards have for people who are breaking, if you like, the laws that has just been implemented, they should use whatever it is that they have been given the power to do and set an example. We have to see that these powers that have been given to the guards and the other people, that if you're allowed, do it. Like, you know...
Okay, so the powers that the guards have is to break up groups of more than 4 people in a public place, okay? So if you happen to be out with your entire family and there's 8 of you in the family, that's okay. But if there's 4 people just congregating, more than 4 people, that is now against the law. So the Gardaí do have the power to break up those groups. So if they had to come across that group of teenagers in Donnycarney, they would have had the power to go and break up that group and tell them all to go home. However, it is the enforcement of this is the problem.
Exactly. Like, how many more nights are the guards going to keep moving the same crowd on? They have to say, like tonight, if they say, we're moving you on, lads, if we see you again tomorrow night, we're going to do A, B and C with you. Because if they don't do A, B and C, they're going to laugh at the guards.
Okay,
Same as they're walking down the street, spitting at people.
One thing we haven't brought in here is fines for people congregating. They have in the UK. Now, it's only a £30 fine, but it's still a fine nonetheless.
Something has to be done.
Okay, so if the guards arrive this evening to a big gang of teenagers, they can break them up and warn them, if I see you again tomorrow, we're going to do X to you.
You take their name and address, starting off, first case. Take name and address, and if you see the same person again tomorrow night, they see the guards coming and they run. If the guards are able to identify that face through their name and address, well, then they implement the fine on the household. And as soon as 1 or 2 fines come into the house, the parents themselves won't be long about pulling the kids up themselves, you know? Like, there's no point in saying we're going to do this and we're going to do that and then do nothing. And then every other night of the week, they see the guards coming and they say, oh, here's the guard, leg it. And then they're laughing, looking at them, running around after them. Like, that can't happen.
And that's where a part of me thinks that the simplest solution to this is a curfew for under 18s. That way, the guards can literally arrest you if you're out.
Well, you see, the thing about it is, Adrian, we have a society where there's a lot of people at the moment who are adhering to what we're being asked to do. Mm-hmm. Then you have a lot of people who don't care. We have the same thing where teenagers are concerned. You know, there's a lot of teenagers who mentally would need to get out for every now and again. You know, a curfew would be on the people who are continuously, in my opinion, not listening to what they're being told to do. And that can be implemented very quickly by the guards through liaison officers or whoever it is that has to keep them.
Okay, but there need. What you're saying is, in order to enforce this, we need to have repercussions of gangs of teenagers hanging around.
We need to start as we mean to go on. It's simple as that. We need to say, if take names and addresses. If you're seen again tonight, well then, whatever the guards, whatever the new rules that they have been given by the government to use should be used. And Johnny up the road should be used for everybody else as an example of what happens if you don't do what you're asked to do. And after that, then they won't be long about copping themselves on. It's simple. And the parents, if the kids haven't got the money, like, let's be honest, a 13, 14 and 15-year-old, they're not going to have 400 or 500 euros to be handing out for fines. It's the parents who'll have to hand that money out.
And you see, you were talking about parental responsibility, and there are parents who are being responsible. For example, this lady texted me just a minute ago to say, I have 2 teenagers at home that have not left the house. Parents need to take control. And that is part of the problem here, that parents aren't taking control. Parents are letting their kids outside the door to go and do whatever they want to do.
Everybody can blame Leo Varadkar, they can blame Simon Harris, they can blame who they like, because this is not happening and the other is not happening. You have to do it yourself. It's up to everybody. And if you have kids, they're your kids. It's up to you to make sure that your kids are not now breaking the laws. And it's as simple as that. And if you cannot keep control of your own children, well, now the guards and other authorities must step in to take control to protect those around us. There's women out there, as you're after saying, is sick with worry about her kids. They haven't moved outside the door. Mm-hmm. There's millions of us like that. There's others that they don't care. You have little scumbags spitting on people's faces walking up the road. Like, that's a thundering disgrace. That young fella, whoever he is, in my opinion, should be charged for attempted murder. We don't know if that young fella has that COVID-19. And that girl that he spat in her face, she could be dire straight.
It's vile. It's absolutely vile.
It's disgusting. And he walks away. He walks away laughing. And the next night, if he wants to spit in somebody else's face, he can go ahead and do it, because there's nothing happened from the first occasion. It has to be stopped from the very beginning. It has to stop from the very beginning.
All right, and sadly the message isn't getting through. I just got this message a second ago. Adrian, I just spoke to my wife there, and she told me there are about 30 to 40 lads in high-vis jackets in Merino Square playing football. Lovely lads, that's really good.
And there's their parents. Where's their mothers, Where's their mothers?
Now, I don't actually know if these are teenagers or not. Maybe they're actually grown adults. Why would they be wearing high-vis jackets? Are they off a building site or something? I don't know. Anyway, thanks very much indeed, Ed. Fines of as much as €10,000 in other EU countries. About time we did the same. Some people too thick to think for themselves and are putting the whole country at risk as a result. Another message says, I have a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old that have not gone outside the door. My son is doing his lessons in an online classroom during the day with deadlines on work to meet, and they know it's for their own good and haven't even asked me once to be let outside the door. And one last one. People love someone to blame. Government, teachers, bosses. They are our kids. Just step up and be a parent. And sorry, just a clarification, this wasn't Merino Square, this is Merrion Square, that 30 to 40 lads are out in high-vis jackets playing football in Merrion Square. Lads. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. This is Adrian Kennedy. We're here until midday today. And it is time for that bit of our show that we call Good News Every Day. Call me right now on 6797 981. Get your WhatsApp out right now and send me a WhatsApp voice note with some bit of good news. There has to be good news in your world somewhere, somehow. Obviously, things aren't great at the moment, and we have major issues, and we all know. There's no point in reminding you what those issues are. But in everybody's life, there is perhaps some good news. I want you to call me right now on 6797 981. You can WhatsApp a voice note to us right now to 0877 98 98 98 with a bit of good news. So something really, really small from your world or some major bit of good news. We're doing this every day to try and spread a bit of happiness. We call it Good News Every Day. Call me now, 6797 981, or send a WhatsApp voice note right now to 0877 98 98 98.
The sound of the city from Balbriggan to Blanchardstown.
Dublin Talks.
98 FM's Dublin Talks.
And good morning from Adrian Kennedy. We are here until midday today, and every day on this programme we are bringing you good news every day. Now, as we know, we've issues going on here, and out of the horrible things we're going through at this moment, we want to highlight some little, small, tiny little bits of good news from your world. I'll give you a good one that's just come into us. Hi, Adrian. My good news is that I live in the UK, and yesterday Boris Johnson locked the country down. So it means I won't be able to see my mother-in-law for at least 3 weeks. And that's from Jess, who's listening to us in England. You see, the lockdown can actually bring some good news. That's funny. Okay, what is your good news? Call me right now on 6797 981. You can also send us a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Sorry, lads, what was the very first good news you sent in to me? If you can just check that for me. I think it's this one. Marius.
Hello, Adrian. It is 16 degrees outside. That's the best news so far this year.
It really is. Although I did say a moment ago, or earlier on, that we wouldn't have this issue with social gathering and all that if we had normal Irish weather. If it was pissing out of the heavens, then nobody would be congregating in any sort of groups. But we don't. 16 degrees in Dublin right now. Okay, what is your good news? Call me now on 6797 981. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Oh, sorry. Bella, what is your good news?
I did cheerleading with Fusion Release All-Star, and this week, with lots of practice, I was able to master my back bend kickover.
Really? Very good.
Yeah.
So, and that was on your own, was it?
Yes, I'm able to do pretty much a back walkover.
So you're socially isolating, you're not in a big group, and you're doing this all by yourself. So tell me exactly what this is again. Describe it to me.
So you go into a crab, and you kick over backwards, and you stand up at the end.
So you're literally doubling over backwards?
Yeah.
That is amazing. And how long have you been practicing that?
About maybe 4 months, maybe.
Very good. So you must be very nimble then if you're able to do something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, fair play. That is brilliant, Bella. And then when you finally get back to your group again, you'll be able to do stuff that maybe some of the others can't.
Yeah, it will be really good.
That is brilliant. Well done, Bella. Congratulations. That's super news.
I'm having lots of fun.
That's good to hear. All right, thank you very much indeed. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. What is your good news? Here's good news that I absolutely love. Let's go to Ballymun, and Morris is on the line from Ballymun. How are you, Morris?
Good morning, Adrian. How are you this morning?
I'm very good, thank you, Morris, and thank you for being on the show, because you have some good news about a service that you're providing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we've opened up we're wholesale produce merchants here in Ballymun for the last 40 years, Adrian, and we're actually open to the public. Best quality potatoes and veg, all locally grown and around North County Dublin. And so our doors are open. Contact us.
Okay, so it's basically drive-through fruit and veg, essentially.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so if I want my potatoes and my carrots and my parsnips on the way home, I can drive through, pick them up, and just pay by contactless.
You got it. You have it.
Isn't that fantastic? Now,
yeah.
Where exactly? What's the name of your company again?
We're called the Seed Potato Company Limited, Adrian. We're based in Ballymun Industrial Estate. We're just behind Musgraves.
Oh, I know exactly where it is.
Yeah. So we've been there for a long, long time, Adrian. So the doors are open here, and we're good to go.
All right, and I just have to drive up to you, tell you what I want, pay by contactless, and off I go. Don't have to meet.
Yeah, we have a deal up on Facebook. Actually, Adrian, there's different combinations available to everybody, and just for different budgets and different tastes. And look, the potato is the one to eat, guys. It'll keep you healthy. It's the most complete food you can eat. So eat plenty of spuds, guys.
Yeah, in fact, if anything, I was listening to the Taoiseach yesterday, and I was amazed to hear that 20% of us eat takeaway food.
Yeah.
We don't have the options are becoming less and less to do that. So we actually have to start cooking proper healthy food.
Yeah. Well, potatoes are the most complete food you can eat, Adrian. Like
Absolutely.
They've all the vitamins you can have, vitamin C, all the roughage. They're the most complete food you can actually eat. So in these troubling times and these tough times, this is what we should be eating, guys.
Absolutely. Okay, so the Dublin Seed Potato Company.
It's the Seed Potato Company, Adrian. It's based in Ballymun Industrial Estate. We're going to open up to the public. We open early in the mornings now, but we're going to open to the public basically from about 11 till 3 in the day, because we get the rest of our work done, and we're good to go here.
That is brilliant. Well done. And again, I can go and buy me fruit and veg and not have to meet anybody.
Correct, you got it. We're contact us, roll in the window, you can ring in advance, it's on Facebook, whatever you need, we're good to go.
Excellent. Very good, Morris. I'll pop into my way home.
You're more welcome, Adrian. Good to see you.
Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Adrian.
All right, there you go. That is Morris, the Seed Potato Company, just near Musgraves there in Ballymun. Just drive up, get your stuff and drive off again. Brilliant idea. Now, Jerry, you're on 98 FM. Hiya, Jerry.
How you doing? How are you?
Jerry, what is your good news? Or I believe you have quite a bit of good news.
Well, I've got very good news because I got up this morning, beautiful blue sky, sun shining, 16 degrees, and I have heat in my house, I have food in my cupboard, and I went shopping to Dunnes Stores, and the treatment I got, it has never been as good.
Really?
Bring on whatever's going on, because everybody was so polite.
And you're talking about staff or the public?
Staff,
or
everybody. The public, the staff there, the security. We got free coffees or tea as we're queuing outside the door. Everything being wiped down, clean, sanitised. We go in the shop one by one, making sure there wasn't too many of us. It was an absolute pleasure. Everybody was smiling. The customers were lovely and helpful. People chatting. I'm just going, it takes something like this to bring us all together.
Absolutely. Now, I have to give a shout out. I have to get you to mention exactly what branch of Dunnes that was, because
with Dunnes Stores in Cornell's Court.
Dunnes in Cornell's Court, running it really, really well, and you felt very safe, very happy.
Absolutely amazing.
And
I
well
couldn't
done.
honestly say enough for it. It was really great. And as I said, I just find people in general have slowed down, and it's just brilliant to see.
That is fantastic. So well done to all the staff. Now, I know it's not just Dunnes and Cornell's Court are making extra efforts like that, but in particular, the staff at Dunnes in Cornell's Court, that is fantastic. Congratulations to them on making you feel so welcome. Thank you, Jerry. That is great news.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. What is your good news? Get on to us really quickly on 6797981. Here's a WhatsApp voice note from Sinead.
Morning, Adrian. My good news Wednesday today is that it is my daughter's 10th birthday. And while we can't celebrate with family and friends the way we would like to, I'm just absolutely delighted. I've kept a 10-year-old alive for 10 years. So that's my good news Wednesday.
That's brilliant, Sinead. I mean, you have to think of it as a great achievement. 10 years later, you still have that child alive, so you've done something right. Fair play, that's great news. Now, Louise, you're on 98 FM. Hiya, Louise.
Hi, how are you?
Louise, what is your good news?
Good news is with everything going on, we're still kind of helping animals out there that need to be helped. Yesterday we rehomed and put into foster 4 dogs within 1 hour, and that's just with the help of non-government funded people.
Where are these dogs coming from?
One example was a man down the country. His mother had been taken into a nursing home due to Alzheimer's, and he can't keep the dogs. And he reached out for help, and through the power of Facebook, it just went on, and through people, and people were tagged, and I helped him, and we got the dog sorted with everybody else on social media that are just willing to help, you know. They all know who they are.
That is fantastic, and well done, because this is a difficult time for people, because a lot of veterinary practices have closed, which is an extra strain on people, and there are still people like you doing some great work with our animals. That's fantastic, Louise. Well done, and thank you for sharing your good news with us. Leah is 10. Leah, welcome to 98 FM. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you, Leah. Leah, what is your good news?
I finished the Harry Potter books yesterday, the whole series.
The whole lot?
Yeah.
How many? Is there seven in books, is there?
Yeah.
And so when did you start them?
I started them in December, I think it was.
Right, and you've finally gotten through all 7?
Yeah.
That's a great achievement. And come here, are they better than the films?
Well, it depends, because there's some different plots, but I like both of them.
You like both of them? They are a bit different from each other, but you're still a fan of the films as well?
Yeah.
Well, Leah, well done. That's a brilliant achievement, finishing all 7 books. I can't remember the last time I finished 1 book, so that's a brilliant achievement. Well done. Thanks, Leah.
Okay. Bye.
And finally, I want to mention this. Castleknock Hurling and Football Club are offering help to people in the Castleknock area. I'm joined by Kevin, who is the chairman of Castleknock Hurling and Football Club. Kevin, welcome to 98 FM.
Thanks very much.
Kevin, I was sent a copy of your flyer in which you say, "Can we help?" Tell me what sort of help Castleknock Hurling and Football Club is offering.
Well, in these challenging times, we feel that certain people will not be able to go to the shops, depending on how the future evolves, and we're a list of volunteers who readily give their time to assist them in whatever way necessary.
Okay, so willing to help in any way you can, the likes of grocery shopping, collection of...
Bringing dogs for a walk, collecting groceries.
Excellent, and that's all volunteers from Castleknock Hurling and Football Club doing all the work?
Yeah, we issued an invite to people last week, and within 48 hours we had over 60 people volunteering.
That's really good. So now it's just to let people know that you're offering the service. How do they contact you if somebody is listening who may be elderly or vulnerable members of our community who could do with some of these services? How do they get in contact with you?
Well, there's a number of ways. We had intended doing a leaflet drop last night of 9,000 houses in the area, but because of the evolving situation, we dropped that. So there is an email, community@castleknock.net, or there's 2 phone numbers on the leaflet. The leaflet will be displayed in also the local shops.
Okay, community@castleknock.net for anybody in the Castleknock area who may be elderly or vulnerable members of society that may need help with grocery shopping, collection of prescriptions or fuel or whatever it can be.
Those general tasks.
Absolutely. Fantastic
initiative. 2 phone numbers as well, if that's any help.
Okay, we'll put your poster up on our Facebook page a little bit later on for people to get that. Don't want to give out your private phone numbers on there. So, Kevin, well done. That's a fantastic initiative, and well done to all the volunteers who are taking part in it. And thank you for talking to us.
No problem.
Kevin O'Shaughnessy is from Castleknock Hurling and Football Club, and if you want to avail or if you know of somebody who could be able to avail of it, community@castleknock.net is the email address. That's it from us for today. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're back again tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. If you've something you want to bring up on the programme tomorrow, please send us an email right now to dublintalks@98fm.com, or send a private message through Facebook at facebook.com/Adrian K and Jeremy D. Have a good Tuesday. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 10. Barry Dunn is next. In the next hour, he's got some great music lined up like these.
I feel so sad.
Sound of the city from Coolock to Cabinteely. Dublin Talks. 98 FM's Dublin Talks.